side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? When Exxon and the Koch brothers came to pay you off, you took $400,000. There's a way on
Hey
you
y'all, we're
out.
going to be getting started in just a second. Feel free to drop in the chat where you're calling in from.
There's a way on you at all. There's a way on you at all. There's a way on you at all. Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on?
Well. Hello, everyone. My name is JP, and I am a proud leader with the Miami Hub. Some of you have all just heard that song before. It's our movement's remix on a classic Mine Workers Union song. And we wanted to start off with it because it perfectly lands what our movement has to do for the next few months. We're in the midst of spiraling crises. And in the midst of the crises that we all face, we have to ask politicians, which side are you on? Are you on the side of the young people? Are you on the side of essential workers, of poor people, of immigrants, all of us who are hurting and scared right now? The people who have seen their parents, aunties, uncles, grandparents, teachers, and neighbors die in unprecedented numbers during this pandemic? Will politicians take action with the kind of urgency and courage these crises we're facing demand? Or will they stand with corporations and billionaires who've been waiting out this pandemic in their gated mansions, making billions off our suffering? We're in the early stages of the most important legislative fight in our movement's history. Right now, Biden and Congress are debating an infrastructure bill that could build the first pillars of the Green New Deal into law. You heard me right. And it's up to us and our partner movements to make them pass a bold plan that meets the scale and urgency of the crisis that we have, the climate crisis, and guarantees good jobs for all people. And we kicked that off in a powerful way yesterday. We had over 70 actions across the country in which young people demanded members of Congress to back the Green New Deal and the Good Jobs for All pledge. It was the biggest day of action that we've ever had, the biggest day of action that we've ever participated in. Drop an exclamation in the chat if you were at one of those actions. That's right. I saw a ton of coverage on social media and in the press, and we got 4 new members of Congress signed on because of actions like yours. And I'm hella proud of this movement, and I know that we have a long way to go, but I know how much power we have in this moment. Yesterday was about taking action. And tonight's call is about grounding us where we are in this campaign and what our mission is in these coming months. We'll have 2 major ways for you to plug in, whether you're a hub, whether you're in a hub, or just looking to get involved, and we'll share that soon. But first, I also want to ground us in the reality of what's going on right now. We know that the Derek Chauvin trial is weighing heavy on loads of families across this country. And in that same vein, we must reach out with arms in solidarity and grasp the fact that our movement mustn't be blind when it comes to the systems of oppression and violence that have ruled our society for so long. And a core part of the Green New Deal is building a society that works for all, not just a few. With that in mind, I want to pass it over now to Isatu, who's going to talk about an action that she took in NYC and is going to share a little bit about how it felt to take action and what her hub is doing next. Take it away, Isatu.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. My name is Aistuba. I am 13 years old, living in New York City. And yesterday, Sunrise NYC and Sunrise NYC youth joined together to protest in front of Schumer's house so he could sign the Good Jobs for All pledge. But before I go into what happened yesterday, I would like to take a moment and share a personal story, becoming vulnerable with you guys. This is what inspired me throughout the protest. I needed someone like Schumer to sign the Good Job for All pledge so my mom doesn't have to make the choice every day to risk her life as she enters a COVID-infected floor. And if I'm being honest, she's not even making the choice. She's required to do it, or our family would fall apart. Now, here's a quote from the Constitution that I would like to interpret. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the great welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. A single immigrant mother taking care of 3 kids without knowing any English comes to New York City. Coming to New York City was supposed to be a chance to redeem herself, a fresh start. She came here to have a better life than she had in Guinea, West Africa. This was a land of the free after all, but it was like a slap to the face. No help and competitive workforce. And this constant pressure to be amazing and be some sort of like CEO of the company or a doctor. Why can't all jobs be good jobs? Why can't all jobs provide a living wage and be treated as something that supports the economy? My mom, who's a nurse's aide, goes to work for like 10 to 12 hours, 5 days a week, and she barely meets the suggested income for a New York family. And when she comes home, she has to quarantine herself overnight and throughout the day before work and disinfect herself with a shower and a change of clothes. These are the choices that my mom has to make while politicians like Schumer are making the choice to not sign the pledge. They are making the choice to put people like me in the Bronx in risk of COVID-19 and risk of being homeless and not having a steady income. This is utterly unacceptable and we need to change it. A Good Jobs for All being enacted would mean my mom would have to work endless hours for little pay. It would mean we would have green jobs that will help society. It means no more job shaming or making people feel bad for not getting an education, even though America makes it incredibly freaking impossible to do so. That's why yesterday, about 25 people, including me, marched over from Grand Army Plaza to Chuck Schumer's house to demand he signs the Good Jobs for All pledge. And if I'm being honest, I was definitely scared before on our way to the plaza. I felt like I was going to fail and stumble upon my words and look stupid. So I just took out my phone, started to listen to some music the rest of the way there. When I got to the plaza, my nerves quickly vanished as I saw some of the Sunrise New York City youth group, Mia, Courtney, and Aileen, plus my coach Sarah and the old coach Julia. I knew if we stick together and continue to fight, whether or not he was going to sign the pledge that day, we were still going to win one way or another. As we were walking to his house, our power grew with every step we took. And we chanted and we did some singing. Now, the moment was clear. We were going to win this. I don't think you understand how powerful a group of young people demanding action is. And when it came time for my speech, I took a deep breath and started speaking. It felt great letting all of my emotions coming out of that megaphone, screaming at Schumer for all the things he didn't do, which caused a lot of stress and pain for my mom. After the action and celebration party we had, I came home feeling powerful. I did amazing. And we weren't going to stop there. A few hours ago, Justine, Mia, and I set up over Zoom to do some action planning. And honestly, the ideas were great. And this was not the first time you saw us, Schumer. And this definitely is not the last time you're going to see us. Be prepared for a storm. And this goes out to all of the other politicians who didn't sign the Good Jobs for All pledge. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Isatu, for sharing. I know the emotion you feel fighting for your mom and the emotion you feel fighting for better days in your community reminds me of how I feel fighting for the people and places I love in the place I call home, Miami. In Miami right now, big developers are gentrifying our neighborhoods to secure their profits from the threat of rising seas, while people of color and working families struggle to protect their cultures, their homes, their livelihoods. Extreme heat is threatening the health of my people who work outside, my people who rely on barely existent public transit and public housing. The corporate polluters contaminating our waterways are soon going to make water a luxury that many of us won't be able to afford. The list goes on. And that's why these next few months feel critical to me. If our movement fights like hell, we can kiss goodbye to the dread that our communities have endured for so long and finally rebuild them with the vision of the Green New Deal. Now, before I tell you how we actually get there, before I get into our whole campaign strategy, I want to take a minute just to ground us in the state of things in Washington, D.C. right now. Because number one, it's really confusing. I've gotten mixed up with it like every week. And two, whether we like it or not, what happens there is going to determine whether communities like mine get the support and investment that we need and deserve in the coming months. So I'm going to start off with last week, okay? Set the stage last week. On Wednesday, Biden released his American Jobs Plan, which calls for $2 trillion in investment and nearly half of that being spent on renewable energy, electric vehicles, mass transit. That's pretty big. It's pretty huge. It's 5 times the amount of Obama stimulus that the Obama stimulus spent on climate in 2009. But economists and scientists say that we need to spend about $10 trillion over the next decade. So this current proposal, only 1/5 of what we need, is just a start. It's really a crummy start towards a Green New Deal, towards a jobs guarantee, and towards that $10 trillion mark, right? If we're thinking about this like hopscotch, the $2 trillion are the first jump, but the 10 trillion are the big leaps we need to get to where we want. And we've always expected that we're not going to get all of those things in any one bill, but there's a critical role for us to play in pushing the envelope here and demanding that we take that bigger leap to get to the end of the road. And in the next month or so, Congress and Biden are going to be negotiating the specifics of this plan. And you won't believe it, but this is true. There are going to be moderate Democrats and Republicans trying to make it less ambitious and less bold. And our allies and the squad in Congress will be trying to make it more on the scale of what we actually need and also make sure that racial and economic justice are at the core. So we have a pretty critical window of opportunity to shift the center of gravity our way and make sure that this step is the biggest one possible. Yesterday, our movement showed that we could turn out at a huge scale. But just like those $2 trillion, that needs to be just the beginning. When members of Congress have one day of protest with 30, 50, 75 young people, they might shrug it off. But imagine in the next month, if every one of those 70 hubs that we had acting yesterday doubled their membership. Hundreds of people made calls and wrote letters. They got political and faith and community leaders to call on their member of Congress to sign the Good Jobs for All pledge. And then, in a month, when it looks like they might fall short of what they need, that hub who turned out 50 people, or maybe even 75, comes back with 300 or 400 and has the mayor of their community standing with them and news cameras and reporters broadcasting the event and people paying attention to our power. I want to ask you to take a moment. Close your eyes, seriously. And if not, take a deep breath, but think about what that would look like in your community. What would be possible? What would it feel like to be there? Can you feel it? Do you see it? Drop in the chat 1 or 2 words that you feel right now as you envision that. I want to see them. Let's see it. Yeah, that's right. Warm, powerful, electrified, hopeful, loving, empowered, invigorated, world-changing. Absolutely, we can feel all of these things. We just got to act. So with that in mind, I'm going to pass it over to Lauren now to talk about how we get there.
Thanks so much, JP. Wow. Such an exciting vision that you just laid out. Yeah, I'm feeling really inspired, and I'm so excited to talk about how we're going to get there. So hi, everyone. My name is Lauren. I use she, her pronouns. I work on Sunrise's national trainings team, and I'm here in the movement fighting for a Green New Deal that guarantees good jobs for all, because I want a future where everyone I love can thrive. And like JP said, our mission as a movement in the next few months is to shift the political center of gravity in this country so that Joe Biden and Democrats in Congress feel the heat from our movement and know the eyes of our country are watching them and expecting them to take bold action that's going to meet the scale of the historic crises that we're facing. So how are we going to do that? I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty of our plan. And first, I want to get into our demand a little bit and talk about why we're fighting for good jobs for all in this moment. So we are living in a moment of historic crises: an economic crisis, a racial justice crisis, a health crisis, and a climate crisis that looms over it all. And over 18 million people are out of work, and millions more, just like Aisatu's mom, are trying to get by working part-time or underpaid jobs. So put a star in the chat if you or someone you know has lost a job or is just struggling to make ends meet because of this pandemic. Yes, so many of us. There are millions of people struggling and looking for good work right now. And at the same time, there is so much good work that needs to be done. Doing the work to heal from the pandemic and to stop the climate crisis and build a Green New Deal is going to be a massive project. It's going to take millions of people to build a new energy grid, care for older folks, teach little kids, restore parks and buildings that have fallen into disrepair, and just generally do the work of building happy, healthy communities. So with so much to be done, there's no reason that anyone in the richest country in the history of the world should be unemployed, underemployed, or working a job that isn't in the public interest. So Sunrise is fighting for a Green New Deal that will guarantee a good job to anyone who wants one. Because with good jobs for all, we can recover from this economic crisis and we can do the work needed to stop the climate crisis all at the same time. And jobs guarantee is a key pillar of the Green New Deal. It's actually written into the Green New Deal resolution. So winning this demand would put us one massive step closer to winning it all. So as we get into that legislative battle that JP talked about, and we push Biden and Congress to be as bold as possible in their solutions to the crises we face, this is what we're fighting for. So now that I've talked about our core demand, let's get a little bit into how we're going to win it. So a couple of weeks ago now, we launched the Good Jobs for All pledge. And the pledge asks members of Congress to commit to doing everything in their power to pass legislation that ensures the US government guarantees every American who wants one can have a job building a just, sustainable, and people-centered new economy. And so far, 14 members of Congress publicly support the pledge. And yesterday, we launched our call for Good Jobs for All into the spotlight with our National Day of Action. So yesterday was a huge moment to introduce it to our communities, to the media, and members of Congress. And yeah, it was the biggest day of action in our movement's history. But even so, like JP said, one day of protest can only do so much. We need to keep campaigning and we need to keep growing our people power. And in Sunrise, we build power through something called the Act, Recruit, Train cycle. So the cycle begins when we take public action like we did yesterday all across the country. The action puts our demands into the public spotlight, and at the same time, it brings new people into the movement who maybe see one of our actions for the first time and get curious about Sunrise and what we're fighting for. So the next thing we do is we recruit all those new people who saw our actions to join the movement by joining our hubs. Then we train them in what we're fighting for and in skills that they might need to take action with us in the future, so that next time we are ready to take action again, they're ready to throw down with us and we can show up more powerfully and with bigger numbers than ever before. So any hub can grow their membership and build their local people power using the Act, Recruit, Train cycle. And doing this is how we'll build toward the vision that JP laid out of showing up to future actions with our entire communities behind us. And so all spring, this is what we're going to do. Yesterday's day of action was just the start. We're going to keep escalating. We're going to be back again in May, showing up in the streets, and with each action, building people power and bringing new people into the fight until we have the whole public behind us. So I know it's not easy to just jump into doing this. Like, I know that when I got involved in Sunrise, I didn't know how to plan an action or put on my own training. So we have developed a training program to give your hub the support and coaching that you need to really throw down in this campaign and get to the next level and do this Act, Recruit, Train cycle. So it's a new program called the GND Groundbreakers. And how it works is 4 leaders from your hub apply and join this program to be escalating in the Good Jobs for All campaign and bringing new people into your hub and growing your membership and your strength. And so 4 folks will sign up, go through a week of training in the skills that you need to do all this. And then after that week of training, you'll get ongoing coaching from fellow organizers in the movement who have experience and can help you one-on-one with throwing down powerfully in your hub. And then after the program, you'll have escalated your campaign for Good Jobs for All, grown more community power in your hub, and developed new leaders and members. So yeah, I'm hoping that tons of you on this call will sign up. I'm going to drop the link in the chat right now, and it's smvmt.org/GND Groundbreakers. And yeah, I'll just drop that in the chat. And if you are not in a hub yet, then you can join one and join the campaign that way. You can go to sunrisemovement.org/hubs. So if you're in a hub and you want support to throw down, it's smvmt.org/groundbreakers. Otherwise, sunrisemovement.org/hubs to join a hub. And one of the things that we're going to cover in the Groundbreakers program is how to talk about the Green New Deal in powerful and clear ways to our communities. We know it's a really important need for the movement, more broadly even. So we're also working with the LA Hub to put together a standalone Green New Deal teach-in for anyone that I'm really excited about. So I'm going to pass it over now to Celia, who's from the LA Hub and on the team that's been working on this project, to share a little more about it.
Thanks, Lauren. Hi, everyone. My name is Celia. I'm 25 years old, and I'm calling in from Tongva in Chumash land, otherwise known as Los Angeles. I'm a member of the LA Hub, and I am pumped to be here with you to talk about bringing our communities into the movement through the Green New Deal teach-in in just a few weeks. So I was introduced to activism at a young age. I went to my first ever direct action in anti-Iraq war protest in San Francisco when I was just 7 years old. I remember making my own sign to hold at the protest and getting onto the packed BART train with my family, my friends, and their parents. It was buzzing with people ready to make their voices heard for peace, and my friends and I crouched around our parents' ankles, excitedly holding tightly onto our signs. When we got to the city and joined the sea of people marching in the streets, my young body felt the power of collective action. I grew up being aware of social issues, but when it came time for me to think about college and pick a major, I felt so much pressure to choose a struggle to dedicate myself to between climate change, racial injustice, gender-based violence, and wealth inequality. And the stakes felt so high. If you've ever felt like that before, go ahead and drop some resonance in the chat. Show me some plus signs or some stars. But after I graduated college, I heard about Sunrise and the Green New Deal. And it was like this weight of having to choose between these intersectional crises was lifted off my shoulders. I joined the LA Hub, and when my friend Sean told me about an idea he had to host a teach-in to spread the word about the Green New Deal, I was in, because I know there are so many people who feel like I did before I joined Sunrise a year and a half ago. People who will be so excited about the vision of the Green New Deal once they understand how it will improve our lives and our society in so many ways. We formed a team and we got to work. And in March, we hosted a pilot event in Los Angeles, where we invited our community to learn about this bold vision for a thriving future. Even though I've been part of Sunrise for a while, I learned so much at the Green New Deal teach-in, and it gave me renewed hope for how our movement can transform our country to achieve the interconnected crises that we face and achieve these goals of climate justice, racial justice, economic justice, and more. It was so empowering to step back and look at our movement with fresh eyes, to remember that feeling I had when I first recognized the potential of the Green New Deal. Our Green New Deal teach-in was a smash hit. People loved it. They loved getting to explore the science, the politics, and the vision of the Green New Deal. And many LA Hub members said they learned a lot of new things, and the teach-in helped them to really visualize the decade of the Green New Deal, even if they were already seasoned with Sunrise. The event gave them the confidence to share the Green New Deal with their communities and their families and friends, and they were fired up to spread the word. It was transformational, both for the attendees and for the team that put it together. A lot of folks on our team were new to Sunrise, but they jumped in with so much energy to pull off this teach-in. I'm super proud of their leadership and of the community that my team created. Sharing our vision for a just green future was powerful for us all. So that's why I am so beyond excited to be here tonight to tell you that our team is hosting a nationwide Green New Deal teach-in on Sunday, April 25th. This 2-hour virtual event will be live streamed from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern or 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific. And folks are going to drop the link in the chat right now so you can sign up. Go ahead and register for the event. If you're on the phone, the link is smvmt.org/gnd-teach-in. This teach-in is an opportunity to invite your friends and family to learn about the Green New Deal, to really get as many people involved in our movement as possible. Because I know that when we give people the knowledge of how we can transform our society, it's incredibly empowering. And even if you're already a seasoned Sunriser, this event will give you the tools to communicate why the Green New Deal is the solution we need to the historic crises we're facing. As I often do with Sunrise, I found hope in this teach-in. I hope you and your hub will join me on April 25th and spread the word to your communities. You can sign up at the link in the chat. They're gonna drop it once more. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Celia. And thanks so much to everyone in the LA Hub who's been working on this. Yeah, they brought this idea to our national team and asked us to help make it something that's accessible to the whole movement. And I'm so excited to be working on it with them. So drop an exclamation point in the chat if you're pumped about this teach-in like I am. Yes, love seeing all this excitement. So we know that we've covered a lot now, and we want to take a little bit of time for some questions. So if you have a question, you can submit it through the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And we won't have time to respond to all of them out loud, but we'll answer some of the top ones right now. And then our question and answer crew will reply to the other ones in the Q&A box before the call is over. So yeah, if you have a question, drop it in the Q&A. And I see one question that I know Zoe is typing to right now, but maybe we can take it, which is, are hubs being encouraged to participate in actions to stop line 3? Zoe?
Yeah, for sure. It's a really important fight. There's really inspirational work happening on the ground. And so happy to hear you were there, Teddy. So definitely encourage folks to engage if there's local energy and if there's ways where you have energy and want to support that fight. It's definitely an important one, and we need to stop line 3 for sure. JP had a much more eloquent answer in the chat. Thank you, JP.
Thanks, Zoe. I see Lydia asked, is there an Instagram post for the teach-in so we can share on our Instagram stories? And I think, yeah, Celia, do you want to take that?
Yes, definitely. Yes, we have graphics that we're working on that we'll be sharing shortly. So you guys can share this on your personal Instagrams, or if your hubs have Instagrams, you can also share information about the teach-in there. So look out for more on that.
Awesome. I see two questions that feel a little related. One is, do we have any specific recommended actions to escalate? And another one is, will there be another day of action in May? And if anyone else has more info than me, feel free to jump in. But I believe that the answer to those is, yeah, we are going to be taking action again in a coordinated way in May. And we don't have all of the details of like the exact dates that it's going to be right in this moment. But we will be having upcoming day of action in May that we'll be like widely sharing info about. If you join the G&D Groundbreakers program, you'll definitely be a part of it. And otherwise, you'll hear more info soon. I saw, oh, guys, what do you want to add?
One other thing to add on that is that May Day is a really important day of action for many movements, and there's likely going to be a lot of organizing that is happening there around immigrant rights and also around the need to pass the PRO Act, which is a major piece of labor reform. So that is something where if your hub is feeling energized around that, if you're feeling energized around that, keep your eye out for more information about that as well.
All right. Thanks so much for these questions. Okay, I'm going to take one more and then we'll move on, but you can keep typing them and our team will keep answering. So my final one for Zoe is, who are the 4 Congress people who signed on to the Good Jobs for All pledge? Do you know that?
I have to pull it up so I don't get the names wrong, but if you give me a couple of seconds, I can tell you that list. One moment.
All right, thanks so much, Zoe. Zoe's on our political and partnerships team, and yeah, a go-to person for this kind of thing. But
okay, great. So the folks who recently signed on were Lloyd Duggett, Jimmy Gomez, Don McEachin, and Jim McGovern.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. We're going to keep going, but again, you can keep asking questions and we will type answers. So now I'm going to pass it over to Lizzie.
Hi, I'm Lizzie. I'm 17. I'm from Sunrise, Western Mass, which is around the Springfield area. I got into Sunrise when one of my friends dragged me into it. She told me all about this one action they pulled off and how crazy it was. I just had to go to a meeting after that. But in the year or so that I've been involved with Sunrise, I really realized how local the climate crisis can be. I mean, since I was a child, I remember going down the highway to preschool every single day to downtown Springfield and seeing lines of incinerators along the highway and a sea of factories and like the plumes like dark smoke coming out of them. And I remember how hard it was to breathe and the horrible stench. I didn't think much of it until recently. I learned about a proposed biomass plant for my community. If you don't know, a biomass plant burns wood scraps to produce energy, and it emits more carbon dioxide than a lot of fossil fuel plants. And Springfield is actually the asthma capital of the United States. So that would be extremely harmful to people in my community because of the asthma rates. I mean, so many people have asthma because of the amount of pollution in the area. I remember a few weeks ago, I was on a call with someone and they were talking about their child and how the child has asthma and how hard it is for the child to barely run down the street, and having a biomass plant would just cause so many health risks to so many people in my community. And for 12 years, local activists have been fighting against this plant. This fight started 12 years ago. I remember one person described it as a zombie plant because every single time it seemed like this plant would finally be dead, it just kept coming back to life. And this past year, this campaign was really picking up. because they had a permit to start building. And it seemed like our state government wasn't helping our community, but instead helping this company that was trying to build the plant. There was a climate roadmap bill that labeled biomass as renewable clean energy, which is completely false. So we fought against it. We made phone calls to our state reps and senators. We wrote emails, we wrote letters, we made petitions, we wrote a letter to the editors. We even went on radio shows. We raised our voice wherever we could to make sure that people knew that we did not want this language in the climate roadmap bill. And eventually, they removed it. And right after they moved it, another issue came. Governor Baker started doing what he could to help the company get the money they needed to build the plant. So once again, we organized. We shifted our focus to Baker. We made phone calls, we wrote emails, letters, petitions, letters to the editor, articles, radio shows. We made as much noise as possible. Back in February, I made a speech outside of Governor Baker's office in Springfield. And it felt like I was speaking into some kind of void. It felt like no one was listening to me. I knew Governor Baker wasn't listening to me. He wasn't going to listen to some teenager talking about our community. I knew he wasn't going to do that. However, the press was there, and they were listening to me when I was speaking. So our protests were shown throughout the local news. And finally, Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren, they heard our calls. They wrote a letter to the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, and the building permit for the biomass plant was revoked this past week after 12 long years of waiting for that permit to be revoked. It was finally gone. And I remember reading that email and just thinking, this isn't possible. It's not possible. After 12 years, this fight is finally over. So yesterday, I joined Ed Markey and local politicians and all the activists that worked so hard to get on this campaign to celebrate our huge victory. I stood at the podium alongside Ed Markey, and for once, it felt like we were strong, we were capable, that we were some unstoppable force. It was our organizing that brought down the biomass plant. And as Markey said, it was a shot heard around the world for other greedy corporations trying to take advantage of communities. So it doesn't matter if another threat comes our way. We will organize as a community and fight against it because we, the people, are the backbone of the country. Because we are powerful and we will overcome those who are trying to harm us. So that's why it's so important to organize, because it was making those phone calls, it was doing all of that, raising our voices, what got this permit revoked. So yeah, really get out there and do what you can. I promise you, success comes.
Wow, such a powerful story, Lizzie. Thank you so much for sharing. And a huge shout out to everyone who worked so hard on that campaign in Sunrise and in the environmental justice organizations that have been holding down that fight for years. So yeah, let's drop for some love for Lizzie and all those other people in the chat right now. Really incredible work. So yeah, one big thing that's so inspiring to me about Lizzie's story is how the organizers won a really hard and long campaign by keeping focused on building their people power. So Baker and their senators felt more and more pressure as time went on. And yeah, I know that I've been where Lizzie was outside of Baker's office that first time, wondering if I was screaming at a wall that wasn't moving. But like Lizzie said, when we build a tidal wave of public pressure, we can shift the political weather in huge ways and get to a win. And that's our task this spring and summer. So who's in for doing that with me? Can you drop a plus in the chat if you are with me? Yes. I'm so excited to be here with all of y'all. And yeah, thank you so much for being in this fight. So if you are with me, I wanna one more time encourage you to apply for the GND Groundbreakers program. If we can drop that chat link in the chat one more time. Like I said before, building a strong hub and campaign is something any group of just 3 or 4 or 5 people can do, but there's a real craft to doing it well. And we've seen that getting coached and trained on key organizing skills makes it much more likely that hubs grow and thrive and build the kind of movement to span race, class, and geography that we know we need to win. So sign up. It is smvmt.org/groundbreakers. And I see a question, am I eligible being 18-year-old? Yeah, all ages. So yeah, take a minute to fill out the form. And as you do that, I'm going to move us to closing. And yeah, just want to share how grateful I feel to be in this fight with all of you and in this movement at this really critical moment. So thank you so much for being here tonight. And yeah, I've been thinking back to when I first got involved in Sunrise, right after I saw that group of young people sitting in with AOC at Pelosi's office in November 2018. And yeah, I'm just thinking about how much has changed since then because of groups like this one. I remember seeing earlier in 2018, politicians like Nancy Pelosi say that climate change wasn't going to be a priority for the next Congress, which felt so awful to hear. And I and so many other young people had never even heard about the Green New Deal. We never even had a question at a general election presidential debate about climate change in American history. And now, just like 4 or 5 years later, we are looking at the potential to put trillions of dollars into the biggest step forward our country has taken in half a century for tackling inequality, systemic racism, and stopping climate change. And we have a lot of work to do in the next few months. And I can tell you that we're not going to win everything we want in this one bill. And sometimes it can look like we have a long way to go. But for me, it's just really grounding to look back at where we've come from and just how much has happened in these last 5 years since Sunrise began. And Sunrise and the sister movements we work with have already changed history. So now it's time to finish what we've started and make sure that Congress and Biden deliver. So are you ready to make them do that with me? And if you are, can you, as we close out, drop a word in the chat about how you're feeling or one intention that you have coming out of this call? I see pumped, inspired, grounded, relentless. I love that. Energized, excited, ready, powerful, pumped. Yes, I feel these things too. I'm so excited that you're here bringing your energy to this. So yeah, sign up for the teach-in, sign up for the G&D Groundbreakers. And yeah, let's get ready to fight for good jobs for all together over the next few months. And yeah, we can really win something really big right now together. So thank you so much for being here tonight. And yeah, I'll sign off for now, but I hope to see you again soon, maybe in the Groundbreakers program. I'll be a part of it. I'm just gonna drop the link for that one more time. You can, copy and paste any one of these links into your browser. All right. Thank you, everyone, and good night.